Добрий вечір. Вітаю всіх.
So good evening. I'm pleased to welcome everyone who is still joining the 18th International Documentary Film Festival on Human Rights, Docudays UA, the festival that is already getting to its end. Well, at least the part of the festival that is in the competition, and this acknowledged the different award ceremonies, but the festival still goes on because you're still able to see the films if you are in Ukraine. And the people in our audience, they will be able to enjoy the films, and the events and discussions still continue. And one of our today's event is basically the Tête-à-tête meeting with people whose film has been spoken about a lot in the quite of recent months in both Ukrainian and international media. And we are talking about the film This Rain Will Never Stop. And we are pleased to have today the opportunity to talk to the director, to Alina Gorlova, and to the producer of the film, Maksym Nakonechnyi. So please welcome, guys. Hi. Hi. That's the people from our audience who have been following the events of the festivals, who haven't been stopped by the quarantines and the lockdowns and the reload of information, I do hope that they have already had this opportunity to see the film because it has a lot of publicity around. I have read a lot about this film throughout this festival week. And among the others, and in these interviews, mostly with Alina, the interviews that have been issued a month before and earlier when we have been speaking about the national premiere, then we have discussed the national premiere in the big screen in the cinema, but then the lockdown happened. How does it feel? How does it feel? Was it a disappointing notion for you? I don't know what kind of feelings you have about that. And Maksym, the question is just the same for you. So how do you feel about that? Well, basically, it's not very funny. It's a sad situation mostly. And I still believe that, yes, all films deserve to be seen on the big screens, especially when we're speaking about the national premiere. And it is especially applicable to our film because we know that the sound has unbelievably important meaning for that. The video is important, and this combination of the sound as video means a lot because we have been creating this film as an experience, as a film, as an experience. And of course, the cinema gives you this opportunity to get fully immersed into the atmosphere of the film. But I do understand that we were able to reach more people with the help of online. And what I have seen by the feedback from the people, and a lot of people have experienced this film online just as we have considered them to have, just what we wanted them to feel through. Well, from the producer point of view, I would like to add up that yes, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing for us just to take aside everything that you have planned for the strategy that you have built on, then you have to change the strategy, then change the strategy again and again. So you're kind of getting grounded on some point, and then it still gets destroyed. Everything goes not as you've planned. We're still trying to follow the audience. Our main target audience is basically the people who are watching films on big screens. So that was to start with, just if we're speaking about the practical point of view, because as far as being a producer on this project, so I'm responsible for this practical issues overall. But speaking on the emotional status and the emotional component of that, but let's be honest, who is now, okay, we all have watched the films online. How many people of us have done it fully with no breaks, with no stopping, to go for a smoke, to go to a toilet, to answer the phone? Do you have any person like that? No one has done it. So I do believe, you can throw a stone at me if you haven't done that. So that's it. That's it. So basically. Okay, clear. Yeah, I would agree with you. Then, basically what we really lack is the Q&A session because basically I'm sure that there were people among the audience who said I do that. I never stop the film when I'm watching it. But right you are. Basically, that's yes, this rain will never stop. I do believe that this film has. I'm not going I don't want to be banal, but I can't find other words because it has this hypnotical effect in that, and that the film has been divided from cycles from 0 to 0. It has 11 cycles, so it goes as with all of this, hypnotical structures. I was immersed into the film. I'm not going to be promoting any kind of the bad things, but I couldn't get away from the screening. I was really immersed into the film, and I had this opportunity to do that, of course, after work. Okay, basically, I'm really sorry that you didn't have this opportunity to have this film screened for the first time in the cinema, but I'm really happy that the premiere has happened. I'm really grateful for the Docudays team because for the second year in a row, they're making the festival happen under very intense conditions. But you've also meant that you're going to be distributing the film. So you have said that in the interview. So what is your distribution plans right now? So have the pandemic influenced your distributing plans?
Все ще не
Well,
визначена дата,
basically, we're
коли
still
це була презентація
undefined
справи.
about the date
Ми
of
так
the
само
distribution, even before the
розуміємо, що нам
festival, and the same
достатньо
goes right now. We do understand it clearly right
нормативи,
now that we
знаєте,
have to
такі
be
певні
very
замовлення,
flexible with
оскільки
distribution.
певні
We
домовленості
need
з
to get the
колегами, з
certain
прокатниками та з
agreements both
кінотеатрами,
with the
тому якби
distributors and the
розуміємо,
cinemas
що буде на низькому
and
старті,
trying to be
то
on this always
як
ready
відкриються кінотеатри,
to
там
as soon as the
кінотеатри
cinemas
зараз
will
працюють,
launch, well,
але
right,
мається на
not
увазі,
right
що
now straight away in the springtime, but basically yes, we are
дійсно є
ready.
змога
As soon as the
одразу
opportunity
записати
comes, we
кінотеатр.
would like
Звісно,
to get
це
into
викликає
distribution, we
свої
would like to get into the
складнощі, тому
cinemas. Of
що
course it causes additional
самі
difficulties that
створити
it's really harder
платформу
to get
слушну
through the very
просування, але
good
ми робимо
adequate
старання.
promotional campaign, but we'll try to do that.
Щиро вам бажаю, щоб це
I wish you
дійсно
all the luck.
відбулося,
I
що
do
ви
hope it will
зробили
be
максимально
painless
для
for
того,
you. I
щоб
hope that
створити
the film will get to the
можливість
big screen and
відео
I will
тим, хто
try to
хоче
watch it on the big
фінансувати
screen as well. If you haven't seen the
кінозали,
film yet and if you're going to be watching it online, I would like to ask you
розуміючи,
to take the good sound of it.
і
So please, if you have the opportunity, make sure that
власне,
your
можливо,
sound will be very good
запитання
because the video,
до
the sound, the
співвідповідачів
image is very
з
good. I'm not a professional in film. I'm mostly working with the human rights protection issues in the Human Rights Festival. But I would like to say that visually, it's an unbelievably beautiful film. And visually, that's a very magnetic film. It's very beautiful. And I know that this issue has already been raised, but this is an inevitable question to be asked. Why black and white? Why black and white? And when did this decision came to you? Why did have you decided to go black and white? From the very beginning, to be honest, because basically the film has started from this idea that I have been to Donbass for the first time, and that was an important land for me as well because half of my family comes from Donbass, and I was really interested to get there. And when I got there, I was surprised and I was amazed with the beauty of the spaces, with the nature around me. But in the same time, the war has already started, the military actions had already started, and it was very dangerous to be there. And I don't know why, but when I was there and we were filming the other thing of this film, I really understood that I want to see this space in black and white. It was basically like vision. It was basically a dream sequence for me in my head. I was really thought that I want to find a character, a hero here in Donbass, and I've started to look for a hero. And when I have found Andriy Suleiman, and when I have understood this duality in his identity, of his combination between Donbass and Syria, and when I recalled these pictures of Donbass, I have thought that you can make this picture of Donbass so it will resemble Syria. It will resemble the spaces we've had in Syria. And this is how it all started to build up, that this is Donbass, Ukraine, and Syria is the same space where this person exists, well, Andriy Suleiman, the person in between those two wars, as we used to call this project before. So yes, this is all how it started. Then later on, when we have already been filming, I've understood that it was a very important thing that because we've built those juxtapositions, we build those rhymes in the film, and these rhymes are becoming more evident and brighter if you make it black and white. So those combination and comparisons, they are much more expressive in black and white. There were some moments when I felt a little bit scared because, once again, the black and white film is a certain risk you take. Whether the people would like to see the film, in what way it's going to be promoted further on. Okay, maybe that's not a very audience-friendly film. You know, there is a very narrow audience for black and white films, but we decided that we will stick to our idea, to our concept. We have decided that as we have had this in my dream sequence, then we're going to live it like that. Cool. Okay, but the partners, your partners, you have a co-production and the co-financing. So did your partners say any kind of doubts about the black and white? People will not watch it. Did you have that? Do you have any doubts from the producer side? Well, the people who have had this doubt we have and this concern, we have understood we should not work in the co-production. That's it. That's true. That's true. That's right. This is the rule that we have learned while we have been working on this project as well, because basically, just try to get us the right way. It's not that we have any kind of not just we're trying to build up our own price tag. We know that there's a lot of people, then you need to work together. You have to start the collaboration that will last for a couple of years only with the people who share Alina's vision, first of all, because this is an author project. She has started this project and her word is the main to make the final decision. So you should only work with these people who only accept the vision that Alina has and who only feel the same as Alina's vision from the very beginning. Well, yes, that's true. And because of using of the black and white and because of this mood, because of the ambience of this film, we have understood that for this project, there is something very unique about it. And of course, we had this fear and well, you have been always thinking that maybe I should make a film on a very different template. So maybe that will be more audience friendly. Maybe it would be clearer to choose the different color to work with that. But in the same time, I had a clear understanding that yes, there is an opportunity to make a user-friendly film, but there is still opportunity to make something unique. And yes, I do believe that we have chosen the second option to go into unique filmmaking, and I'm satisfied with that. I do believe that it's a very good beginning. Yes, it worked. It worked. Well, yes, because basically, when, if not now, I have asked myself this question, when will I do this film if I'm not going to do that right now? Because here I have this material. We're already making this film, not any other. Yes, but we have been working and always thinking that this kind of film because basically when we have been pitching this film and a lot of people has told us that this film is a film about everything together. It's about the story of the protagonist, about the story of the family, about the cycles of war and peace, and about a couple of countries, like about borders. It's like it's too much in one thing. We had a lot of feedback that you have to concentrate on one topic that, and we have been joking that basically, when you have had a certain name already as a director, as an author, when your name is a statement that you can come and say, I want to make a film about everything and about nothing at the same time. And everyone will go, whoa, yes, we're waiting for this film to come. And then Alina comes and she says, like, I want to make the film about everything and about nothing. And they say, like, okay, baby, just do something simpler. Do a film about this guy, and that's it. So yeah, we know that there is some kind of prejudice about that sometimes, yes. Yes, and by the way, after this film, what do you think will be more opportunities and possibilities that next time when Alina comes and says, I want to make a film about something that I want to see. This is how I see it. Maybe that is complex for you, but it will be made. And the people will go like, oh, this is the director who made this rain will never stop, so let's give her the money. So do you think there is this improvement into this way? Because I have read it that, that with this film, it's Alina's statement that she's going to stay in Ukrainian filmmaking. And there was not Ukrainian, by the way, Ukrainian feedback. There was an international feedback for your film. That's interesting, actually. Thank you. But we'll see how the film goes. Right now, I can't find the energy to start next film. I kind of imagine what it would be that I really would like to make the next film about, but just to get on, step out and say that's something I want to do, I can't, because it took me a lot to make this film, and I do hope that it will give me some energy back. It will give me some energy to keep on working further on so that I'll be able to make some new project. It will empower me. But just to say that I'm gonna start working on the next film right now, I'm not sure that it will give me more experience and say, but I hope that my producer will say that. Max, so we'll be waiting for you to do that. Okay. And by the way, speaking about those moments, I just wanted to have another question for you as well. And from Zoya Laktionova, thank you very much for this film. By the way, Maksym and Alina, you have seen a lot of workshops when you have been working on this film. So did they give you the opportunity to support you in your idea and making this film, or prevented you from doing what you wanted? Oh, thank you. But it depends on the workshop. It depends on the workshops. There is this opinion that they prevented us from doing something. Yes, there was some situation that there become a burden for us, but it all matters still. It's still experience. The different workshops. This is something that is clear. You're working on that. But before the quarantine, it was lots about traveling and the circles that we went with attending all of those workshops. It has given us the opportunity to see different countries, to immerse ourselves in different cultures, to talk to people from many different countries, so to build up the context overall. So when you're being told and that the people who've never understood anything about your film and your film is not clear or whatever, yes, you're becoming angry about that, and you keep on working more and more so that you would prove that your film has the right to be the way you see it. And, I believe that there was a lot of things that I have understood for myself, and I had a lot of insights about those work during those workshops. They didn't even meet the topic of the workshops, but you are in dialogue, you are in movement with other people, and it really helps you a lot. It really helps you to understand and clarify what is it that you want to do. And of course, you have to when we have been working on this film, what we have tried to do, we have understood that, that this is an international project, and we actually pushed it everywhere, pushed it everywhere possible. And sometimes we even push too hard when we shouldn't do that at all. Yeah, you have to understand that when you go into the certain international markets, and when you are working on an international market or in the pitching, when we have mostly the editors from television, then you have to understand it clearly what kind of meeting you're attending. There are some meetings you shouldn't take the director to. So, if you're working with executives from the TV, then you have to talk directly to them, So basically, you have to talk to them in a different way. Like, thank you very much for your opinion. Yes, yes. No, no. Will you take it or no? So, just like that. And for the producers, that will be basically painless, and they will not really consider the thoughts of these people. But for the director, then yes, they will take it much more closer. That will be much more hurtful for the directors to hear that. But there is the good thing about it as well. It's just that you have to have a clear understanding how and when you're presenting the project, who you're presenting the project to, and what it is that you need to get out of this pitch. Because the markets we've attended were some significant importance for the project as well. So if it didn't have the importance right now, then later on it's shown their importance for us, you know. So the same thing was here, you know, the workshops that we have attended, the artistics workshop, creative workshops, they have been very, very important for us. We have the summer school for editing workshop, and Alina has been together with Paula, our director of editing, and they have become one creative unit after that in this workshop, right? Then there was the Eurodoc and the producing workshop, and I was really amazed as a producer there. I thought that it was a very big breakthrough for me as a producer, and I've got this really professional resilience in the framework of this project. There was a project for the women in documentary filmmaking that was a very important project for Alina as well, I guess. Well, yes, yes, that was a very home-like chamber atmosphere, and it was very important for me, and that was really needed for me at this moment, because I don't know whether my project was interesting by that time to anyone. We have been working for this project for quite a longer period of time, and it was really hard for me to even present it, even to pitch it to other people. I knew at a certain moment that I tend to get so nervous that I can't say anything at all. And during this workshop, just speaking about, you know, this atmosphere at the workshop, and I was asked to present my project. I've started presenting my project. I understand the amount of words I can't present it, you know, and I say I can't say anything right now. You know, I'm so nervous right now that I can't speak at all. And they were like, okay, so what happened? Why not? Why is this very specific moment you getting too nervous? Maybe you are saying something that you don't you don't really like in your film. That was very cool. That was very cool. It's really hard. I do believe we don't have a lot of workshops when you can discuss with other colleagues what bothers you about your project, what it is that doesn't fit. Because in most of the workshop, you have to protect, you have to be very productive. Yes, because that was a very supportive atmosphere. Like, you're good with your film, you know where it goes, you know how it will work out. That's cool. Yes, cool. Thank you for that. Good. Let us talk about what is inside of the film and what is how the film is being seen. And because, you know, for me that it's a very interesting film. I have read those log lines in 2 or 3 lines about the main protagonist who has been forced to go to Donbass, running out of his own war, just only to get to the place where the war is still ongoing. And his further on journey, the geographical journey, the life journey that he takes. But before that, to start with that, I still recall the another film of yours. The first film of yours was the screening in Munich that there was when one of the spectators from Ukrainian diaspora, and I have been there, and this person has blamed you, accused you, Alina, that you should not make the films like that because the film shows that Ukrainian states does not help the people who protect Ukrainian states, but you should only make the films and show the films outside that will only be work as the political information. Who has attacked us? Who are we protecting for? Who are the heroes? Who are the great people? And who are those bad people? And you're doing everything wrong. So that was the sense of there's quite a long of conversation, quite a lot of speech that he said. By the way, very, very emotional. He was very appalled. Yes, he was. But now this rain will never stop. Visually, the film has impressed me, but it really had a different impression for me than your first film because it's a very different films to go. But your film, this rain will never stop, is very international. This film, you know, it's not about the political information or providing the political information to people, but we don't have this stories about the crimes of the occupants in Donbass. You do not show the war itself. You do not speak about the Russian aggression in words. What you are talking about is about the broader sense and broader ideas. So do you have this kind of expectation that some people will once again stand up and tell you once again, you did it wrong again, you have to get to some certain party line? And just to add up to this question, when you have been working on this film, did you have a clearer understanding that you would like to target it to a certain audience? Yeah, so in the international or whatever.
Мені здається, що я поки що не чула
I haven't heard nothing of like these things yet about any kind of political inclinations about this film yet. I think they will come. I know a couple of moments in the film that can be treated in a weird way or can be treated differently. For some people, I'm not going to mention what kind of moments, but there are some moments in the film that can be interpreted in different ways. But I believe that this is the problems for the audience itself later on. If they will see that, or if they will believe it, that this is some kind of red cape for them, red garment for them. So we didn't, there won't be the red flags for them. We didn't include anything of that intentionally in the film. I think it is a little bit early to discuss that, because what we really want to see is how the film is being seen in the Kurdistan, in Turkey, in Iraq. That would be very interesting to know how Turkish audience is going to consider our film if we are going to have the premiere there, because basically, yes, that there is the very long conflict in there. So basically, that would be very interesting to get to know how our film is going to be interpreted and what's going to be the response to the audience in this region of the world to our film. I don't think that I'm not even ready for the Q&A in those moments, but we'll get prepared. Okay, and about the audience. And about the audience, and from the very beginning, I have identified the audience for myself. I really wanted to make a film that I would like. So I am the audience itself as well. So yes, of course. And yes, so basically, there are some people as myself, and I was trying to work on my own taste, that it was the aim that I wanted to follow. I really want to make a film that I will feel good watching and I will feel proud of watching on. So at the same time, maybe Maksym, you will tell it more about how we worked with Wolf. So yes, we have been identifying the audience and trying to measure the audience, and with the help of Ukrainian Institute and the promotion program, and we have been working with the international marketing agency, and then we have identified the first target audience, the secondary target audiences, the way to get the contact with these audiences. But as Alina said, that would be very interesting, and I do believe that is going to be the key for our distributional success. It would be to get to the other countries as well, because basically this is the story. The story starts as the story of a Kurdish family, and it would be very good to reach the Kurdish audience and the Kurdish diaspora in the countries that the film is going to be screened. It will be very interesting to know their response, because basically, like you said, that this film is not very political. The only political statement that has been voiced out in the film, it is a political statement that considers the Kurdish idea. So it's not Alina's statement. It has been said by the protagonist, who hopes that Kurds will sometimes get their own country. And this is the only political statement in the film. And so on. Yes, this is what we've tried to do. We wanted to make this film universal. And yes, the primary target audience for us was the people who like the author journalistics and author documentaries, and we really wanted to know what is going to be the response of the Kurdish diaspora from all over the world, and the representatives of the Kurdish minorities. We really want like to show them this film as well.
And by the way, it must be one of the only political statements in the film. And it's interesting to concentrate on how you're going to show it in Turkey, taking into account the political context. On the other hand, the war which is shown, it is not just a selection of wars, the war in Syria, the war in Donbass. And in your interview, Alina, you talked about those images, those cycles, and as Maksym mentioned, the way the war unravels, and the title itself, "This Rain Will Never Stop," shows some kind of despair, because it is mentioned in one situation when the protagonist tries to get into Syria, and by crossing the bridge, which is flooded, and he's told by one of the people present there that he will be able to get there only when the rain stops. But the rain seems to never stop, and he never gets there. He never gets to Syria. Whether this moment is subjective, it's very dark, because it has a lot of irony. Indeed, it seems to me that while looking at what I'm creating, this is how I create. I have this melancholy in the films, sometimes difficult. In fact, I love films like that. I watch them and I feel a kind of satisfaction. And on the other hand, we reached some philosophical understanding, as it was correctly noted, that it's the movement, this is water, this is the cycle of war and peace, of people in constant migration because of war. And if you look into the history, this is what was, what is right now, and what is going to be. Because the water is the main metaphor of our film. This is the flow that shows people who stand for love, which we show through Pride. And then there are people who chant in favor of war, but again, for freedom, for their country. And we have different states of a substance. And Alina has this directorial courage to take up the scenes with no happy ending. If we take no obvious signs, the protagonist of this movie was not broken by PTSD, and it is clearly articulated in the end of the movie, because the protagonist goes back to the civilian line. She manages to go back to work. She enters the underground. But then the main statement is that the protagonist says that she's no longer afraid of death, of dying. Andrei doesn't get to Syria, but it's at some point it's not important anymore, because in their dialogue with the uncle, Andrei asks, has it been long since you've seen our house? But he answers that there is no house anymore. There are other people. So if he had got to Syria, he would have been physically in some other land. He wouldn't have gone back home, because there is no home. And recently I started thinking about this coming home. And when we started filming about homecoming, about coming home to Syria. And at some point, when he didn't get there because of the flood, it wasn't about coming back home. But when his relative died, I don't want to spoil the plot for you, but in the end, we managed to film this coming home if we take this plot line. It was a very interesting turn of events. Yes, it's coming back, but a different kind of coming back. So we spoiled it a bit. So indeed, what you've just mentioned, the people who weren't planning on going, people who never planned of leaving their home, their native town. Suleiman's big family didn't plan on being dispersed all over those 4 countries, but they were forced to because they were running away from the war. And Andriy, together with his parents, was running away to avoid war. And after their arrival, another war started. And Andriy doesn't have the official status in Ukraine. De facto, they are refugees because they weren't planning on going here, on coming here. They were trying to save their lives. And I'm going to make my statement a very mild one. But in Ukraine, the documentary films that show this migration, when these undocumented migrants, they are very few and far between. And but now this topic became the focus since 2010. And have you been thinking about this topic in this context? Have you been thinking about the perception of refugees in Ukraine? In fact, no. When I started working on this film, I never thought about it. Well, I've just, with the no obvious signs, I've just been going deeper into the topic of PTSD, but I wasn't aware of it, what it is. So I had a lot of discoveries back then. And what I'm saying about them not wanting to go someplace else, when I show that they don't feel well, you have to understand that the older generation have difficulties learning a new language, which is extremely important when you live in a foreign country. If you want to find work, they wanted to come back, but it is so difficult coming back. It's so easy to say, why? You've been here for 5-6 years, so go back. Everything's over there. But we forget that they lost their jobs. The social connections are broken. And in general, I saw that when they go to Germany, they have 10, 12-year-old children. They've lived in Germany for years and they've been integrating into that society, and it's so great. And I've observed it in the process. So it's not so easy to go back. Maybe they're happy with this because their children will have a different future, not the one they would have had in Syria if they stayed. And I've repeatedly emphasized it. When I was in Stanica Luganska, I saw real people living in the occupied territories. And those people, they, I think, supported this idea, a lot of them. I really saw them in a different light. And somehow I understood that they are not happy. And there is an ongoing humanitarian catastrophe in our territories, although temporarily occupied. As for this contrast you've been talking about, if we have so few stories about refugees, internally displaced persons, then people from European TV channels were saying that this is another story about a Syrian refugee. We've already filmed it, we showed it, we sold it. Millions of such stories to millions of people, and it's not that it doesn't concern us, we just don't talk about it, which is strange because we are firstly a massive transit point for refugees. Secondly, we have a gigantic number of people with such an experience because there is displacement, assimilation, socialization, and in fact, we could do it as part of our creative identity and position ourselves this way. This part, in fact, this part of Ukrainian social life has little to no representation because it did happen. How? And it started back in the USSR because back then there were no refugees, but still there were a lot of people like that. How the parents of our protagonist got to know each other, because there were friendship relations between countries, and the father studied in university in Donetsk, and that's how they found each other. And even now we have a lot of foreign students, we have a lot of labor migrants, and indeed that would be interesting. And our production company even submitted a short film project to the Ukrainian State Film Agency on labor slavery, a film about labor migrants from Nigeria, and it was a project by Alina Kucher, and we hope that this project will be realized. And for me, there is no secret why I'm asking about it, because refugees, forced migration, internal migration, and international migration is the topic that was my interest in my focus, because I talk to refugees, I try to help them, and it's important for me when these people are shown the way, as Alina, you said, because they see Andriy, his close relatives, because then these things contradict those stereotypes. You've dedicated, not even spent, you've dedicated 4 years to this project, and maybe even more. It started when in Kiev opened the temporary point for refugees, and there was misinformation spread by Russian TV channels that this temporary camp for refugees will be specifically built for Syria and for refugees from Syria, and people didn't understand what was happening, but they thought that there will be something bad. And here we see a specific person. It's important to have such opportunities, but it seems that your film allows the opportunity to see it through Andrey's eyes because he's not a very open, talkative person. And this whole film is very magnetic, it's hypnotic, because the war is somewhere far away. If they are shooting, then it's far away. This is what the refugees experience. This is a new country, but this is not a homeland. They are friends, but they're not those friends. I speak the language, but this is not my language. And when I come back to the border of my homeland, it's still far away, and it's emphasized by the visual images, by the music. And you've put in a lot of effort, not in just filming, but in production and post-production. Did it take a lot of time and a lot of effort, this stage? Can you tell us more about it when you finalize the filming process? Firstly, it took us a long time to finalize the filming. We were looking for a good cut. We understood that we need to go on to film a bit more, and it changed the structure of the film. And this is where you understand where the title comes from. And recently, I felt that it somehow, this film enslaved us, me and my film crew, and it didn't let us go until we finished it. And we understood that color correction is good, but we need to do better. We edited the sound. It's good. It was good, but we needed to do better. And we were engulfed by this perfectionism. And as for the sound, just before our premiere, we changed the sound, and then we decided to tweak it because, of course, if you watch it in the cinema, it's 5.1. It is extremely important. It's when the sound producer works on the film. The sound has its own dramaturgy, and I would like to add that we had 5 cuts, 5 variants. And personally, for me, I went through those 5 points in time that I felt that we were ready, that we didn't need more time. But then, and then there were these 5 moments when I felt it. But the major event, when it happened, we had this final cut. At some point, we already had this version that we submitted to a film festival. We got a refusal from one film festival, but the others accepted us. So then we understood that we're going to give it, to submit it. But then this major event happened, and we understood that this is what we must do to film, to give the story its volume. So what happened was the part of the family, and it had to be in the film. And in fact, it expresses what Alina initially wanted to say with this film. And this is why we had to film it, to include in the editing, and it took us 6 more months, extra 6 months for post-production. But then the film became perfect, not as in perfectly done, but it got its finale. It's alpha and omega. Indeed, structurally, it's a very wholesome and whole film. And when the film comes to an end, you feel that the story forms a complete whole. It's finished. It was at IDFA in the Netherlands. And the Popular Festival in Italy. At Docudays, you received the special award from Current Time. Were you disappointed? Were you expecting more? Or you hadn't some expectations from it? In fact, I was surprised that the TV channel gave us an award. It's a black and white film. And it was a strange situation that the only award at Docudays came from the TV channel. But the trouble is that in general, TV channels are not really perceptive of it. And they don't really like black and white films, and they're asking about the color version. And we say, no, there isn't one, because it's black and white. And it's a sign for us, because I really loved the statement, because you see that the TV channel representatives really understood the film. So we were happy with this award. I didn't intend to somehow focus on this award. It seems very important, but we know that Current Time is not exactly the TV channel in the Ukrainian terms, because the show quality documentary film releases is what Current Time does. And in some interviews, your film was called an art house documentary film and also a film d'auteur. It's the author cinema. I think you understand what I'm driving at. And judging by the international reviews, it really hit the mark. It really hit the bullseye, because there was a lot of attention to it. It garnered a lot of reviews, but we didn't have enough time to ask more technical questions. So, dear friends, you can ask your questions. And in one interview, you said that Andrei Suleiman at that point didn't watch this film, and you wanted him to watch this film on the big screen at the national premiere. So did he watch the film because it premiered not on the big screen but online? And he said that it exceeded his expectations. In fact, when we started filming, when he agreed to it, he didn't know that it would take 4 years. And a lot of documentary filmmakers understand that how their protagonists perceive and react to the films that are made about them. He was fascinated because it's the story of his family. We started filming 4 years ago when he was 19. This is when we started filming, so it was quite engaging for him to see how his life went on, all these memories. And he said he's really happy because we carefully showed him some moments And I'm really happy that we didn't fail, because this was the requirement of the film itself. It's so careful, it's so melancholic, and it dictated to us what materials to take and what to omit. And what about you yourself? Have you somehow any predictions as to how long it would take you to film this project? So was it just, if it's 4, then it's 4 years, okay. Back then, together with Max, we wanted to film, we wanted to move somewhere. We wanted a project, we wanted to have a co-production. We didn't know what exactly, but we wanted to fund this project. We were overflowing with energy, but now we're tired of it. But we've been attending the workshops all the time. We wanted to try everything to do it. And if back then someone had told us that it would take us 4 years, if you go, that we get this fund, if you take DOCA, if you take the Ukrainian State Film Agency, that you're going to film in 4 countries, that you would premiere at IDFA, where you will win an award. We're saying 4 years, 4 years, but it's true for every film. The thing is that we've been constantly working on it for all these 4 years. And if we take our other projects, it even takes more time. And step by step, when I watch documentary films, it's good for us. Touch Me Not, the film that I really love, it took 8 years, but this is a research. And it seems to me that documentary filmmaking is research. And in order to research something and to show something, you need time. And I think it's really awesome. In your case, indeed, it's exactly what it is, the research, which is thought-provoking. And I'm really grateful to you for this film, for this conversation. A lot of questions are left unanswered, so my advice, read the interviews, because you'll get even smarter questions than I asked you, but I advise all of you to watch this film on the big screen, and thank you. It's a very important film, and for me personally too. Indeed, this rain will never stop, but this is one of the interpretation, your interpretation. But the people live their experiences, they live out their lives. The film about the refugees, about war, about peace, about happiness. Thank you for the bridges that you've built with your film that weren't flooded. And I advise to everyone, because we tried not to spoil, to watch this film tonight or tomorrow. And for you, I wish new and exciting projects. And thank you again. And thank you for this conversation. And goodbye.